it's natural as a founder to have these big highs and lows and to have these thoughts when things start to go wrong.
This zone of discomfort is where you can do your best work and be your best self. Sometimes when you scale a startup, it's just uncertain. There's no set benchmark. There's no set path.
Singapore is a unique market. While we have per capita incomes being very high, the size of the market in terms of the sheer numbers is low. Whereas if you pick a market like Indonesia or you pick a market like India or China, the market size is so different and you need to be able to adapt yourself to be able to harness that market opportunity. And hence there is a need, absolute need for us to be thinking global from day one.
Singapore is a very comfortable place to live. And I think that the constant challenge that Singapore founders will have is, how do you make sure that complacency is not a hose that puts out the fire in your belly? We make sure that failure is just a bruise, not a tattoo.
Ten years ago, we started in a 900 square feet basement in Ubi. The dream then was to create a global aspirational luxury brand because we wanted to furnish every single milestone of the urban millennial. I was furnishing my own home when I moved back from UK, and I realized that it was so expensive to get well-made furniture, well-designed. Kasri came out of this when he was sourcing for furniture, and we realized that this was a real problem that customers and people our age had. Year 2 and 3, when we saw that there was a real good reception in Singapore, that started to turn to hope and belief. Blinded somewhat by our success, we took the exact same approach and we made our first foray overseas to Australia. Opened a store, brought our whole collection, and we were all pumped, and we pretty much lost money for 2.5 years straight every single month. I think there were 4 to 5 times where we were 1 month away from having no cash in the bank. I left my last role in banking and there was 90 to 95% drop in income. I was very grateful to have 3 beautiful children, but there's definitely guilt that I was not spending enough time with them. Even my own self-worth, I was questioning if I was on the right path. And that got me to, I think, a very dark place.
So how did you get out of it? I mean, that's the more important bit, right? Because there's also a lesson in that for a lot of other founders.
I have this forum of entrepreneurs that kind of we support one another. You just stop listening to that outside noise.
Correct, yeah.
So I think Singaporean founders have this challenge of risk aversion and this sense that they cannot fail. But to some extent in the Western culture that I've come from, it's gone to the opposite extreme. We've almost started to see failure as this badge of honor. It's almost this like hero's journey that you have to go through of, the complete failure to then kind of rise again. And I don't think that's a healthy environment either. Like most things, I think there has to be a middle ground between these two extremes where we can be comfortable with challenge, we can be comfortable with adversity, but equally, we don't seek it out for its own sake.
Someone once said that starting a company is like waking up every day, being punched in the face and then be made to chew glass. Now, when you're doing that every single day, it can get very disheartening. It is very, very tough. And so you need to have that conviction of belief. There is no plan B.
I think we grew up in a society where certainty of outcome is important. There's a certain predefined notion of success, and you want that certainty to that success. So I think having to break that frame was very important. Having to reframe the mind to operate in this way and pivot quickly was the big shift. Actually, right at our core, we are super adaptable if we tap on it.
I think the biggest advantage that Singaporean founders have is diversity. You don't need to necessarily institute diversity mandates in Singapore because we are, as a society, extremely diverse. We have different cultures, different ideas. Because although we naturally have to go to other markets to find those bigger oceans, we are actually naturally predisposed to doing that because of our backgrounds, because of the people that we interact with on a daily basis.
The benefit of having a startup or a founder who's based out of Singapore is the Singapore brand is exceptionally strong in global markets. There is credibility, there is governance, there is quality, there is focus on customer excellence. To that extent, when you go out with that brand and you go and launch a solution outside, there is already a clear, a leveling up of your solution that you're bringing to that market. And that's an advantage that we founders, if we're in Singapore, should clearly leverage.
I think the biggest lesson I learned from hitting the bottom low was you cannot control when the outcome you want will happen, but you can control how you live every day to get closer to that outcome. So my idea of success, I think, is shifted in a big way, whereas previously it was very much marked by tangible outcomes, be a certain valuation by year 7 and all that, but you kind of let that go. Now it's shifted in terms of just focus on that outcome. It's very much on living your best life every day, focusing on the process, because by doing those steps, you are getting closer, not further to your goal. There's a huge amount of success which is down to luck. And luck is something like the wind. You can't control it, but you can build a sail to catch it when it comes. So having that shift has helped my own mental well-being because you are much more focused on the present. It has helped me tremendously just to see the joy in every moment, to solve what I can solve now. So you have an eye on the future, but you are not obsessed by it, and you don't live in the past. You're just staying present and making the most of it.